Liss, and the name of the program is The Way to Go. I invite you to join me each week at this time as we explore places to go and things to do. Today we are welcoming back two authors who have appeared on the show before, and they're out with a new book. It's called Art on Sight. And my guests today are Marina Harrison and Lucy Rosenfeld. And really welcome back. I enjoyed your two previous books, and I love your new book. So let's talk about Art on Sight. You talk about discovering artistic places. What exactly do you mean by that? What is it all about?
Well, we think that people ought to see art that's outside of museums, and that there are many places to see art and to get a feeling of where the artists worked, how they lived, and to see art that's environmental art that is out in the countryside, and foundries and workshops.
Yes, the emphasis is on place as much as anything, because because it's important to think of art in terms of where it was done, where it is being done, and how it has inspired artists. You know, we have sections on views that the artists painted, as well as places where that actually then became the art itself, environmental.
What I like about your books is the fact that I know a lot of the places that are in there because I do get around a lot. But I find things about places that I know that I never knew. And how do you do it? I mean, how do you actually visit all of these places?
Well, some we did by starting with the paintings themselves. In some cases, the ones where we call in the artist's footsteps, we found some paintings that we liked that were within our region, which is Maine to Maryland, as you know. And we went to visit these places to see if they still existed in the way they had at the time of the painting.
And it was hard to discover some of them because obviously vistas have, not the vistas themselves, but places have changed a lot. Buildings have been created since then, but we were very fortunate in finding a lot of sites that are virtually the same as when they were painted, say, 100 years ago.
And some we were recommended to by people. The artist studios that we visit, we found out through other artists and so forth, and we actually wandered around some communities blindly and stopped in bookstores and said, are there any artists living near here?
Really?
Yes, we did that in West Cornwall.
What is the process now? Where do the ideas come from? I always ask that of creative people where it starts, but you're talking about existing things, but people don't know about a lot of them. And
you mean the sites, the places?
How do you decide where you're going to go?
Well, as Lucy said, a lot of it is by word of mouth. People say, oh, do you know about this and that? And then we go and we discover these places. Some of it is serendipity. A lot of it is research ahead of time.
Some of it we read about in other publications that we find. For instance, if we see an exhibition of a living artist that we like very much, and then we find out that he lives or she lives in somewhere within our region, we might go and visit them. And
so
call them and say, can visitors visit your studio? Some artists don't like people to visit, and some love it. So we have to discover that.
Now, you say artists, they may not mind the two of you going in to visit them, but someone reads your book and all of a sudden they're getting 50, 100 visitors. Will they like that?
Right. Well, no, we ask these artists if they would like to have visitors.
And they have to call first.
They have to call, and we don't give the artist's actual address because we don't want them to be intruded on, and unwanted hours. So the visitors have to call first, and it works out very well. Most of the artists are very happy to have an occasional visitor.
Yes, and we also take people to places that are public in themselves. I mean, for instance, we take people to see Daniel Chester French's studio and to see Augustus St. Gaudens's studio.
Where are they? Let's talk about them specifically.
Well,
I'm going to be talking about two of my favorites.
Augustus St. Gaudens, who was one of the 19th century's most important sculptors, lived in a summer house in Cornish, New Hampshire, in a place called Asbay. And it is the most beautiful place you've ever seen. It is the first site that the U.S. government designated as an artist national site. And the second is right near here, by the way, just opening.
In Ridgefield.
In Ridgefield, Connecticut.
It's called Weir Farm, and it's where John Alden Weir weird, not weird, painted, and it's a very beautiful place. It's very rustic.
Connecticut rustic town, and it's a little barn and a little studio. And
What do you mean by it's just opening? It has not been open to the public before?
No, exactly. The U.S. government has just purchased it. It was about to be lost to a condominium development, and the U.S. government purchased it, and it's their second artist historic site in the country.
And you mentioned Chesterwood, too.
Chesterwood is a wonderful place in the Berkshires, and I think it's quite well known. Many of our places are not that well known, but that one is one of the better known ones. But you can see why, because it's an absolute
With Daniel
gem.
Chester French.
Daniel Chester French, and he has had his home as well as his studio there.
One of the things people will enjoy there at Chesterwood is the railroad track that runs directly into his studio, so that he could put his big statues on it and turn them around and cart them right out on a railroad, which we liked very much.
He was the one that did the statue of Abraham Lincoln that's in Washington.
The Lincoln Memorial. Right.
And others. And so in his studio, you actually see maquettes, you see models of these statues that then...
In various phases. I mean, he changed the Lincoln Memorial several times before the final version, and you could see all the versions.
Once, I think Lincoln had one leg in front of the other, and in another version he has, his left leg instead of his right leg. So it's interesting to see how this work evolved.
When you talk about the legs, isn't it true on statues of famous generals on horses that the position of the horse's leg tells
whether they died in battle or not. That's absolutely true.
That's one of the little known facts.
Yes, it is absolutely true.
In art history, that's right.
And then we have gardens too. We shouldn't forget that we do specialize also in gardens and artistic gardens. These are gardens that are not just pretty places, but have some artistic interest to them.
Such as?
Well, we have some topiary gardens, and those are a lot of fun, including for children. Children would like those. We have one in, I think it's Moncton, Maryland. It's called Ladue Topiary Garden.
I think you should explain to those who may not know what topiary is.
Well, they take yew bushes, Y-E-W bushes, yew, and they carve them into the shapes of animals and geometric forms, balls, columns.
Yes, in Ladue, in fact, there's an entire fox hunt that's made out of yews, which is an extraordinary sight.
There are two ways, I understand, of doing topiary. One in which they're actually carved out of yews, and in others where there's a wire frame and then the leaves are added to it.
Well, I suppose the fox hunt has some of both.
Yes, right.
But we also have some gardens that are in themselves artistic. There's a garden up in Millerton, is it, or Armenia?
Yes, Innisfree it's called.
Innisfree Garden.
And it's a Chinese, it was inspired by people who love Chinese art, and it's a Chinese garden.
And each vista, wherever you walk in this very, very big garden, is like a Chinese painting. It's quite beautiful. One weeping willow, one rock, one stone, one little path. They're very gorgeous.
And it's not very well known at all, except for the people who live.
Nobody, yeah.
Yes, people that we've talked to about it have not heard of it. So
let's take this as an example. How did you discover it?
How did we discover Innisfree? Did we read about that?
I think we read about it in an article.
I think we read about it in an article in New York Magazine, and so we went to visit it, and that led to something else. You see, one thing leads to another.
While we were up there, someone told us, well, if you're going there, you know they're opening Wethersfield next year. And so we went back a year later to a place in the next town, which was the estate of an important diplomat who had just opened it to the public, and it had trompe-l'oeil gardens, which are gardens that are full of hedges and arches and pathways that look like they're going somewhere and don't. Very deceptive and very beautiful. So that's how we found out about that when we were at the first one before we found out about the second.
People ask me, because I do cover the subject and I do go to a lot of places, how I find out about places. And it's really a reflection of what you're saying today, and that is I read a lot. I keep my eyes open for things. Yes. I clip things.
Right. We're clippers. We are inveterate clippers.
And you never know. One of the things that I clip is the cityscapes in the New York Times every
we look at
real
that,
estate.
Yes.
And I just cut them out. And when I'm going into Manhattan, I go through them, say, well, I've got an hour, and here are the places on the west side of Manhattan between 42nd Street and 72nd Street, and I go look at those.
Well, one way we found something which is very odd was we went to see the town of Stonington, Connecticut, which is in our book as a historic town. And on the way home, we were on the Connecticut Thruway, and I was reading the map. Marina always drives and I always navigate. And we were reading the map, and there was this little red dot that said art site off the road. And so I said, let's turn off. So we turned off. It was exit 70 on the turnpike. And sure enough, we found the boarding house where the Impressionists all stayed in Old Lyme.
Old Lyme, Connecticut.
And we would never have known about it It just was something
So
that
it was
we
just
found.
this little dot on the
Complete
map.
serendipity.
And you
Yes.
had no idea
No.
what that dot represented.
No, but we went to see because it said art site.
And it's
So we went.
included in your book.
Yes.
It's the boarding house of a woman whose name was Florence Griswold, and it's now a museum. But it was a place where she housed a lot of these artists, including Weir, there were a lot of them, all the Impressionists.
Child Hassam.
Child Hassam was one of the favorites. In fact, he got preferential treatment.
And they painted on the walls. They did designs for her on the walls. And, of course, we might have known there was a museum there because the museum listings, we do have all the museum listings, but it didn't say, it just says Griswold Museum. It doesn't say that there's a boarding house there where these people actually lived.
And they also painted all of the area
Yes.
of Old Lyme. So that's one of our following in the artist's footsteps chapter.
You talk about the view now, Olana, which is covered in your book, and the view. Well, why don't you talk about it? It's your book, not mine.
Olana. Well, we did Olana in conjunction with Tom. Olana was the home of Frederick Church, and he was the pupil of Thomas Cole, who lived directly across the river from him. And
Hudson River.
Yes, the Hudson River, and it's fascinating. That particular outing is very interesting because of the contrast in the two homes. The Cole house is a very simple little frame house, and then Olana is a very grandiose place, as you must know.
Which tells you what happened to the artists from the beginning of the Hudson River School to the end of the Hudson River School.
Cole was the inspiration for all the others.
Yes, he was.
But that particular view outside of the Frederick Church window where he painted.
Yes, it's taken from the back side of Olana. If you've walked around Olana, you know that there's a promontory, and then if you look down, you're seeing the Hudson below. And we found a painting, which we have in the book. By the way, we do have pictures in the book so that you can match where you're going with the place, if it was a painting indeed. And that's taken from right down below the back end of Olana, looking at the Hudson, and it's exactly the same today, identical.
Yes. And this might be an appropriate point to say that we're talking about a book called Art on Site, and this book talks about places to go to see art in the homes of artists and to see art. Well, you talk about it. I'll hold up the book and you talk about it.
Environmental art.
A lot of environmental art,
Yes.
gardens, places where you could see art that was painted, views that were painted.
And studios where art is now being made of all sorts.
Now-
And contemporary environmental
Foundries.
art. Foundries.
But in this book, this is taking you further than you did in your two previous books, Art Walks in New York and A Walker's Guidebook. The area, as you mentioned, is Maine to Maryland.
Right.
And
11 states.
Yes.
Why did you decide to expand? Had you covered everything?
Yes, we did cover everything, and we don't pretend this to be comprehensive to everything. There are a lot of places yet to be discovered, which is exciting. But we wanted to go further afield because one thing led to another, and we would find out about one thing, and we'd say, oh, we must include that because we loved it so much. I mean, we have a section about quilters in Vermont, for example, in the Putney area, and that's pretty far from here. But we think that people that use this book might be going on a trip to New England and might take it with them and stop at these various sites as they're going.
So
Also-
how does one use the book?
Well, there are two ways to use it. I was just going to say, there are many armchair readers of our books we have discovered. We know a number of people who've said to us, oh, well, we love your books, but we never go anywhere. We just like to sit and read them and pretend that we're there. And that's fine with us. I mean, if people enjoy reading travel books without really seeing the things, we do have pictures, and they may do that. Otherwise, we think that if you would take it along, and the reason that we have so many areas is if you were vacationing on Cape Cod or vacationing in the Berkshires or whatever, we have a nice circuitous area around these, wherever you might be.
Did it take you more time to do this than your other books because of the wider range that?
I don't know if it took us. I mean, I think it took us about three years to do this
3
book.
years. New York was hard too, I have to say. Doing New York City for the art walks in New York was just as much time. Because even though it's a concentrated area, it didn't take us so long to drive there, but it took us an awfully long time to do each thing.
To organize it.
But your writing is so succinct, and there are many guidebooks. I own a lot. I've read a lot, but somehow you, in very few words, you capture everything so well.
Aren't you nice?
Well, thank you very
much.
Well, you're as I've said to many people, and I've said to you, you're two of my favorite guidebook authors.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
I have used your other books constantly, and there are places in here that are my favorites. There are places in here that I've never knew about, which are going to become my favorites. How about you two? Do you have any favorites?
Oh my! I have several favorites. Can I? Well,
You go first.
I like one of the places that I'd never really heard of until I wrote the book was the Staruka Viaduct in the Susquehanna Valley in Pennsylvania, and that's a hard place to get to. But when you're there, it's just absolutely gorgeous.
Why is it your favorite?
Oh, because it's just you're out in this wonderful wilderness. It's really a wilderness, except you go there to see this viaduct, which was built in the 1840s, and you're walking along the river on a cold, wintry day, and all of a sudden there it is before you, exactly as it was when it was painted by Jasper Cropsey. And I like the fact that it's exactly the same as it was during his time, I think.
One of the interesting things about that Staruka Viaduct is that was in the second phase of Hudson River school painting. And already the beautiful views of the 1820s were being changed by progress. And Cropsey was one of the first artists to put a sign of progress into the view. And you have not only the aqueduct, which is really quite extraordinary, that was built by the Erie Railroad, 1840s, but he has a train rushing across it. And that is one of the first paintings that shows that combination of the American dream of beauty plus progress.
Did you discover it through the painting?
Yes,
That
we
we
came
did,
across
yes.
the painting first, and then we looked on the map, and we had a very hard time finding Staruka anywhere because we didn't even know what part of the country it was in.
But the how did you know where to look?
Well,
Did we know that it was Pennsylvania?
We didn't
I think,
know.
and we got a Pennsylvania map, and we looked until we found it.
It's identified in its
Yes,
title
yes.
as where it is.
Well, we knew the region. It's Lanesboro. So then we went out to Lanesboro and we asked, and we found it.
And we had no idea that it would still be a nice place
Yes.
to walk or to see. So it was trial and error.
What makes it your favorite? The fact that it's
The fact that it's so unspoiled and so and unknown, and people have never heard of it. A lot of our walks are unknown. Some of them are known. I mean, it's inevitable in our region. But I like the fact that no one's heard of this, and I felt like a discoverer when I was there.
How about your favorite, Lucy?
Well, I have a lot of favorites. Let's see. I liked one of the ones I got a kick out of was the Grandma Moses trip. Grandma Moses, as you may know, was the 100-year-old lady who started painting when she was 85 and who lived in rural New York, just on the Vermont border. And there's a museum in Bennington, Vermont, which has a large collection of her paintings. And we found that if you take a couple of her paintings, you can take a bicycle and you can follow the very route through an area called White Creek and Eagle Bridge and see the very pictures. They look exactly like she painted them. And that's really very charming. It's beautiful rolling country with white and brown cows and little red barns, and it's very charming.
So I have to ask you that question again. How did you discover the thing about taking a bicycle trip?
I knew that she was in that region already. And so when we went to the Bennington Museum, I said, I found some pictures, and then we went to the region where she lived until we found them.
You just
and then
drove
we
around
found,
looking for them?
Yes, no, we went to the great-grandson who has a fruit stand. It's called the Will Moses Fruit Stand. And we said, how could we find out what? I mean, they sent us to her house, and their house, the lady in her house there sent us to a great-great-granddaughter who lives on the very site of one of these pictures. And that's how we found it.
So you can see we've had a very good time doing this because we've met all kinds of people.
Yes, it's very, very amusing.
It is.
And there's a great sense of discovery when something comes along.
Yes.
And plus,
suddenly
working together makes it fun for us, too, because we can chat about it and we can...
We are lifelong friends. We've known each other all our lives, so that we have a very enjoyable time.
Let's talk about some places close by in Westchester or nearby to this area.
Yes, nearby is Usonia, which is in Pleasantville, New York. And there's a wonderful community of houses that were built by Frank Lloyd Wright. And he's a man of the moment.
And you can walk right from house to house. We also recommend that you call an elderly gentleman who was one of the first tenants of the area and who will tell you the whole history of it.
He didn't actually design all the houses,
No.
I understand it, but it's
He laid out the community.
The community.
I think he designed three of them.
He designed three of the
houses.
houses, and he designed the community, which incidentally, one of the interesting things is that he didn't believe in property borders, and so they were all round. The areas around each house was round, and the idea was that nobody would have fences between their homes. It didn't work, and little by little, people started putting up
Yes, that
dividers.
original concept of those circular plots was something that was
Yeah.
more of a dream than a reality.
In fact,
it
one of
turned
the
out.
houses is a roundhouse. And that's one of the, I think it's
Right.
what is it? Well, I don't remember the
Yeah.
name of it, but anyway, it's one of the more interesting.
Friedman House.
Friedman House,
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah, I discovered Usonia, and I've taken lots of people there. I've discovered Usonia when the Hudson River Museum in Yonkers had an exhibit, and
They did a nice catalog on it.
and so I went looking for it, and right here in our backyard is
true.
all this work and some of the beautiful sculpture in the lawns, and it's really an astounding place.
We also have another corporate arts center not far from here in Purchase, New York. That isn't very far from here, right?
The PepsiCo.
PepsiCo. I don't know if your listeners know about
Yes,
PepsiCo.
as a matter of fact, I had the curator of that exhibit on this
Well,
program
That's a
some
very
time ago.
impressive art collection.
And then there's Storm King, which isn't far. And there's West Point, which isn't far.
And Ridgefield, Connecticut.
Ridgefield, Connecticut.
Weir Farm, as we mentioned before.
Storm King, of course, is unbelievable. You've covered
Yes.
that
Yes.
previously.
Twice.
So,
Yes.
and Storm King. Let's go over and talk about Storm King. I've been there many times.
I'm sure, and you never get tired of it, do you?
No.
We think it's a very good place to take visitors from abroad, actually, as well as children. It's kind of quintessentially American in its space, the use of space.
Let's say what it is now.
Oh, it's a public outdoor sculpture park of contemporary sculpture.
With huge sculpture.
Big
And-
rolling landscape
Yes,
that you can walk over. It's also a museum with an indoor museum, but people really go there
It
for
has
the outdoor.
some changing exhibits,
Yes.
but I think you're right. People go there for the outdoor vistas, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
I love the place, and again, I think the point, it's a place that you can take people to.
Everyone loves it. I've never met a person who hasn't just loved
Yes.
it. And PepsiCo is nice too. It's quite different. It's on a different scale, but I think it's got very impressive art as well. They both do.
And they do accommodate visitors. You just drive in, and they have a booth where you can pick up a map, and
That's
it
right.
outlines all of the sculpture and who did what and where it's located.
And they even have tours if you want to go on a tour, although you don't really need to at all.
Yeah.
No, you don't. And I love the gardens that they have in front of the building,
Yes.
where everything is of a much smaller scale.
That's right.
But a magnificent setup with the fountains and the
It's a
little
very
pools.
pleasant place. By the way, one thing we didn't mention is that we do have a section on architecture in this book, as we did in our first book. And in that section, which has Usonia in it also, we have one of our very favorite places that we should both mention, which is the cemetery outside of Philadelphia. That is one of the grandest cemeteries in America, I understand, not having seen all that many, but it is an extraordinary site because it's where the wealthy Philadelphians of the 19th century had tombs in the style of pyramids, Gothic cathedrals, all in miniature, the Acropolis built in their honor.
It's really fascinating, and all kinds of notable people are buried
Yes,
there, including
and-
the Calder family.
But
Many of them
they
are
didn't
buried
just
there.
have a little grave marker. They had full-size architectural gems in miniature built. And walking around
Sort
it
of
is
like-
something else. It
Sort of
really
like
is.
the pharaohs of old. You know?
Yes.
They thought of themselves in grandiose
I
terms.
recently did a program on touring cemeteries.
Did you?
And I had a person from the Woodlawn Cemetery and from the Kensico Cemetery, both of which have famous people buried there. And they talked. They both have maps which are offered to the public.
Right.
And I've toured several times a wonderful cemetery in Brooklyn called the Greenwood Cemetery,
yes,
which
right.
is
Yes.
architecturally
Right.
magnificent. And it is a subject that, as one discovers when reading Art on Site or Art Walks in New York or Walker's Guidebook, there are places all around us that people don't go
Yes,
to because they
that's
don't
right.
know they exist.
That's right.
But it's a great subject, and then we try to open people's eyes to
Right.
this sort of thing. And of course,
Yes.
that's what you're doing.
I think in our first book, in Walker's Guidebook, we have a cemetery in Tarrytown, which is
Yes.
also historically,
Sleepy Hollow.
Hollow.
Yes.
which is wonderful.
But this one is a more architecturally of interest, less than the
Architecturally of interest.
Right.
Uh,
And trees also. It had something like 450
That's
kinds
right.
of flowering trees.
So we tell you what's
Very
easy
beautiful
to go to
Yeah.
and to visit.
Yeah.
And the amount of work that you put into it is enormous. Now, you both work on other things,
Yes,
so
we-
this
we
has
do.
to be both in the publishing field.
Well, I write books.
You
and
write
she
them.
works
I'm in the
publishing.
publishing,
Right.
yes.
So how does one find time?
We make it. We just take it away from our other work. We spend about at least 1 or 2 days a week, all year round, except in the middle of the summer. And
But we enjoy it so much, so it's
Yes.
not like work for us, you know.
we set a day. We just
Yes.
say, okay, next Tuesday and Wednesday are for this book, and we just do it. We leave first thing in the morning, and off we go.
It's obvious that you
Yeah.
enjoy it because that's
Yes,
apparent
yes.
in the places you select and the way you describe them. Another thing I like is when you're in the area, here are some other places that you can go
Right,
to.
right.
And also I like very much the driving instructions. How do you get
Good.
there?
I'm glad you like them.
I'm glad we work hard on those. We do work hard on those.
And some of the places that I discover, sometimes when you know something too well, you have difficulty in telling people how to get there. And sometimes when it's an obscure place, the descriptions are not very clear. But I have never found any difficulty.
Well,
Oh,
we're
I'm
glad to hear that.
I'm glad.
And sometimes when I'm reading one of your books and I find something, and then all of a sudden I turn a corner and I make another discovery that's not even in your book, which I think is great because you
We
take
hope
me to
peop-
places I don't go to.
We hope people will send us things. We do hear now and again about places we didn't know about, and we're always happy because we do updates of these books. We're about to do an update of this one,
On
and this
Art
one's
Walks in
already
New
in
York.
its third edition. So we do have to update, and we're happy to.
Let's talk about the update on Art Walks in New York.
Well,
You
New
said-
York is a town, is a city that's quite changeable, as we all know, and so we decided
Trendy place.
trendy, really, and a lot of things have changed. Museums have moved. The Guggenheim, there is now a downtown Soho section to the Guggenheim, which didn't exist.
Whitney is left
Whitney, yes, and
downtown and
Yes.
moved
certain
back to.
sculptures have been moved from lobbies. We have 2 chapters on New York, on Atria, in the Midtown section, and all of those have changed when certain companies have bought certain buildings, and so we have to update that, and
And
that's what we're working on.
we've just completed doing that, and it will be out in about 4 or 5 months, I guess.
I know it doesn't have to be said, but I have seen these books in bookstores, so they
Yes.
are
Barnes and Nobles has all of them.
all of them in Barnes
Yes,
and Noble, and
and,
I've seen it in many other
Oh,
bookstores.
yes,
Other
and
chains,
it's in
yes.
B. Dalton. It's in most of the big bookstore
It's
chains.
double days. I
Yeah.
think.
So since it takes you 2 to 3 years to write a book, do you have any more books on the horizon?
Well, we've been devoting ourselves to redoing art walks. The minute we finished getting this one out, we started work on that one because they were running out and they didn't want to keep printing one that
Right,
was
sure.
incorrect. But we have to start thinking once we finish doing.
We will. We'll work on it
Yes,
some more
yes.
because we enjoy doing it. It's
And I
something
think
we-
our publisher likes to
Yes.
keep us going. So
And just as you make a list of the places and choose those which are the best, I suppose, do you make a list of possible subjects
yes,
for books?
we
And-
already have, but I think we better not discuss it right now.
no. We talked to our publisher, it was Michael Cassend in New York. We talked to him about what he thinks would be a good idea. He does all kinds of travel books, and so he has his ideas as well as we have ours. I mean, he was very insistent that we include gardens in this because he felt a lot of people enjoy gardens as much as looking at art, and that was his.
And he was right.
He was right, yeah.
I think he's right about that.
So we do discuss it with him. We don't just go to him and say, we're
is
going
it."
to do a book. We let him.
We're lucky because he's a small enough publisher, so we can have that kind of give and take, which is rare these days.
Well, your give and take has been great, and we have run out of time. It's been great talking to you. My guests today have been Marina Harrison and Lucy Rosenfeld, and they are the authors of a great new book called Art on Sight. It's a great book to discover new places and to learn things about places you don't know about. I'm Norman Liss. The name of the program is The Way to Go. Until next week at this time, enjoy yourself.